All right, guys, so today is Friday, November 6th, and usually on Fridays we are synchronous and I am live with you on the computer. But because Monday, all teachers have to return, regardless of whether any student or not returns, we have to report to campus on Monday. So I need to get my room ready, okay? So I'll be on campus today. So we're going to do today asynchronously. And of course, I will see you back regular schedule on Monday. Okay, so for today, you are going to take a quiz on parallel and perpendicular lines. So I put notes on every single question. Like I literally put every single step you need to do to solve each and every question on that quiz. And there's 14 questions, okay? 10 of them, you just have to either find the parallel slope or the perpendicular slope. 4 of them is where you have to write the line, okay? So I'll give you an equation, you find the slope of that equation and determine whether you're gonna use that slope because it says parallel or whether you're gonna do the opposite reciprocal because it's perpendicular. And then I give you a point, you write it in point slope and then in slope intercept. So there's only 4 of those, okay? So I'm gonna review really quickly just a sample of, some of the questions that you can see. I'm going to just do 5 problems. And if you watch this carefully, play it back if you need to. And of course, use all your other notes. This is a quiz. So open notes, use your calculator, whatever you need to, okay? And when you submit, it'll give you your grade. If you did not get a passing grade, so 70 or higher, if you didn't get a 70 or higher, then you need to send me a remind so that I can delete your first response and allow you to take it again. If you don't send me a remind today, I'm assuming you're happy with your grade and it's going to stay, okay? And no more late assignments. This is a quiz. It's got to be turned in by 11:59 today, okay? So keep that in mind. All right, so one of the first few questions, like 1 through 10, they're going to give you equations, okay? So let me put right here. This is a quick review. So number 1, say that they give you an equation y equals 3/5 x minus 5. And they tell you, find an equation that is parallel to it, or which equation is parallel to it, or which equation is perpendicular to it, or find the parallel slope, find the perpendicular slope, okay? Well, if something is already in y equals mx plus b, you should be able to tell me the slope of it right away. The slope in this format is always the number next to the x. So you know the slope of this line is 3/5. However, you have to read carefully and what are you looking for? If they're asking you for anything that says parallel, then parallel means you use the exact same slope as that. Don't change it, don't add anything, nothing, okay? So if you see the word parallel, you are going to use the same slope as that line. But if you see the words perpendicular, okay, then they're telling you, hey, you have to use the opposite reciprocal. 2 things must be done. You change the sign, so from positive, it's going to go to negative, and you flip your numbers. You have to do both, okay? And then there's the answer there. Let me do another one. How about if I gave you an equation that is not in slope-intercept form? Maybe it looks like this. Okay, the y is not alone. Almost, it was, right? If it weren't for this guy right here, if this guy were to move, then now y is alone. So that's exactly what you need to do. You need to move him by doing the opposite sign. So he'll become a negative 4x, and then he'll no longer be there. So you'll have y equals 10 minus 4x. So you had to do a little bit of work first because the equation was not in slope-intercept form. Now that it is, hopefully you remember the number next to the x is your slope. So that's the slope of the line given. But then the question might say, what equation is parallel to it? Well, if it's parallel to it, it's got to have the same slope. What equation is perpendicular to it? Well, then if it's perpendicular, you got to do the opposite reciprocal. You just listen for those words, read carefully. If it mentions the word parallel, then use the same slope, okay? If it says the word perpendicular, then change the sign. So from negative, I'm going to positive. And remember, negative 4 is the same thing as negative 4 over 1. So if I'm going to make it perpendicular, I make it positive, and I flip my numbers. Okay, so just read carefully to see what it is it's asking for. All right, another one. I'm just giving you different types of equations that may not be in slope-intercept form, so first you gotta get them to be. So what if this one is like this? You have to first find the slope. Well, in this case, this is standard form. I don't know the slope yet because I have to put it in y equals mx plus b. So the first step is move the number with the x to the other side by doing the opposite. So I'm going to do plus 4x to both sides, and it's going to be gone here. So I'm going to end up with 3y equals 12 plus 4x. And then I have to divide everybody by the 3 to get that y alone. And I get y equals 12 divided by 3 is 4. 4/3, that's just going to stay 4/3. Now I know the slope. Now I know the slope was 4/3. So then it's just a matter of reading carefully. Is my question asking about anything having to do with parallel? If it is, then I will use the same slope I just found. If the question says anything about perpendicular, then I will change the sign and flip my numbers, and that'll be the answer I choose, the one that has a negative 3/4. Okay? And one last one of this kind where you're just finding parallel slopes and perpendicular slopes. If your equation looks like this, again, it is not in slope-intercept form. So I have to make it look like slope-intercept form, and all that they forgot to do was to divide everybody by 5. So if I do that, I'm going to end up with y equals 10 divided by 5 is 2x, 25 divided by 5 is 5. So now I know my slope is 2. So if my question says anything about parallel, use the 2. Use the same thing. If your problem says anything about perpendicular, then change the sign. So from positive, you go to negative and flip your numbers. You have to do both those two things, okay? And then you're gonna have 10 of these. That's easy, 10 of those, okay? Then you're only gonna have 4, probably 2 parallel, 2 perpendicular. So 4 of this kind, okay? So let's say that they tell you, find a parallel line to 2y minus 5x equals 6, and make sure you go through the point 10, 2. Okay? All right, so here we go. I first, remember the steps, need to find the slope of the line given. Okay, so find m of line given. So I'm going to take my 2y minus 5x equals 6, and I'm going to solve it for y. So remember how we do that? Move the number with the x by doing the opposite. Then it's no longer here. So now you'll have 2y equals 6 plus 5x. And then divide everybody by that 2. And you'll end up with y equals 6 divided by 2 is 3. And then 5/2 is going to stay 5/2. Now I can tell you that the slope of the line given was 5/2. That was step 1. Then I have to read carefully. My problem said the word parallel. So parallel means I use the same slope because parallel lines have the same slope. So I am going to use the slope I found and the point given, and I'm going to write a point slope. So a point slope would have a y, and then I go to the y value, it's a 2, but you have to take the opposite, so you put minus 2, equals 5/2, parentheses, x, and you go to the x, and it's a 10, but you got to take the opposite and put minus 10. And then finally, solve it and put it in slope-intercept. So I'm going to take my answer from point slope, oops, this is an x minus 10. Okay. So the way you do that is by getting rid of your parentheses by doing the distributive property. So y minus 2 stays the same. 5/2 times x is 5/2 x. Plug this into your calculator, 5/2 times -10. Or if you do it, in your head, you're going to do -10 times 5 is -50, divided by 2 is -25. And then last but not least, move this guy over by doing the opposite sign. So you'll have y equals 5/2 x, -25 and +2 is -23. This will be the answer. Okay? And the only thing that changes is if I gave you the same instructions, okay? So I'm gonna use the same problem, all right? Find a perpendicular line to 2y minus 5x equals 6 that goes through the point 10, 2. So that's the only thing that's different. Sometimes it says parallel, which we did, but then sometimes the question says perpendicular, okay? So you would do the same steps. Find the slope of the line given. Well, we already did that up here. We know that the slope of the line given was 5/2. Because my problem says perpendicular, it is telling me, hey, you don't use this slope. You have to find the perpendicular slope, and you do that by changing the sign and flipping your numbers. This is the slope that you're going to use. And of course, the point given. So you rewrite a point slope first. So you go y minus 2 equals -2/5 x minus 10. And then solve it. So the last answer should be the one in slope intercept. So y minus 2 equals -2/5 x minus 10. I am going to do the distributive property. -2/5 times x is -2/5 x. Do this in the calculator. You are going to get a +4 because -10 times -2 is +20. Divided by 5 is +4. And then add 2 because that's the opposite. And you do y equals -2/5 x plus 6. So it all depends. What are the instructions saying? Are they saying parallel? Then use the same slope of the line given. If it says perpendicular anywhere in the problem, then you're not going to use the slope of the line given. You're going to change it by doing two things, changing the sign and flipping your numbers. Writing it in point slope first, and then changing it to slope intercept. So you have 4 of these, 2 parallels, 2 perpendiculars. Okay, so 10, 11, 12, or what is it, 11, 12, 13, and 14 on your quiz are the ones like this. So pause the video, watch it again, use all your other notes to help you. But this quiz is due today at 11:59. I'm so sorry I couldn't be with you today while you are quizzing. Okay, but do get it done, and I will see you on Monday, regular time, synchronously, and all that. Okay? All right. Have a great day, guys. Bye.